Hi, everybody. This is Chris,
And this is Matt.
and this is Pitstop and Pitstop 2,
A double header.
a double header discussion, not a double header review, because we don't do reviews.
We don't do that. And can I just take a moment and appreciate the sweet image? Is that an image you found, or did you make that of the two game covers kind of overlapped like
I just
this?
overlapped them. Yeah,
Wow.
I know.
Our
It took,
production values are just like on the up and up.
I opened GIMP,
Wow.
took one
Wow.
image I found, put another image over it.
Layers? Did you use
I
layers?
used layers and then
Holy shit.
merged the layers.
Hmm.
I know. If you're joining us for the first time, this is a conversational podcast, more of a book stuff. Book. We also
Keep
don't
going.
edit. It's a book club style format discussion of old games, 20 years or older. Not console games, just computer type games.
Yeah.
Apple II, Commodore, IBM, Amiga, etc.
Yeah.
We do not have a script. We have not talked about this really with each other at any length until this conversation. We do not know what each other will say.
No.
We may find out one of us hated it or loved it. Although, with few exceptions, we generally don't hate them.
We're usually on the same page, I
We're
think.
usually on the same page and we usually don't hate the games.
Yeah.
And we do talk about things other than the game whenever we feel like it. So
Just
there.
because.
Yeah. We do 2 games a month. In this case, 3 games a month. So I'm already
Right.
lying to the viewers. Oh my God.
We just like
Trust
give
me,
and
though.
give and give is what we do.
Just constant. Long game is at the beginning of the month. This is our short games because it's Pit Stop. It's a racing game where you race around the track.
Yeah, it was short even for a short game. So we were like, let's just do them both. We can compare and contrast.
I'm glad we did them both.
Me too.
And you'll notice as we started this recording, number of drivers, 2.
Two, we employed our high level IT skills and networked together our Commodore emulators by clicking file netplay in our
Flight
emulator.
Simulator.
Yeah.
And then it just worked, sort of.
Yeah.
I hope whoever's working on Vice, or if it's open source, I haven't checked recently, probably is, that someone gets in there and finishes the net play, because it's great until you try to do a disk load and then it kicks the other person off.
Yeah,
That's
well,
it.
beggars and choosers, you know.
Yeah, I
I
know.
really appreciate that it's in there because it gave us the opportunity to compete head to head in this wonderful game.
Right.
But
And I know
I
beggars
think
can't be choosers, but beggars can beg, so
true,
please.
true. We really like do appreciate the emulator
Yes.
developers and community because there's so many great emulator options out there, and like it's really nice to be able to just do these in in your computer.
I think it's fascinating that we can take something like a Commodore or an Apple II and play it on our modern computer, and it just works through an emulator. But if I try to get Interstate 76 to work, or Strike Commander, it's 3 weeks of browsing through network forums and trying to click exactly the right clack to make it go.
Right.
And then having DOSBox be like, well, this speed means one thing, but this speed means something else. And just never hitting the sweet spot of
Yeah.
being able to play the game.
Yeah, there's definitely a gray area around the mid to late 90s that we occasionally bump into where you're not like emulating all the hardware necessarily like you are with a Commodore. You're just like running the software.
Right.
So it's a mixed bag.
Yeah. So there's that sad little area of a sad little island of sadness, and someday maybe we'll buy the equipment to just play it natively, but that is not today.
Nope.
I think what's happening right now is our only problem we had with these was discovering that this was the type of game where when you have multiple players, you hand the joystick to the person next to you. So we had to make that happen in the middle of things.
Yeah, you have to like go in there and toggle who has the joystick control, which worked fine for this,
Right.
because like in Pit Stop 1, you're taking turns racing. It wasn't until Pit Stop 2 that you do true head-to-head split screen action.
Right.
But yeah, let's start with the fundamentals.
Yeah.
This is a 1983 and 84 game.
Mm-hmm.
Pit Stop 1 was 83, obviously. Pit
Yep.
Stop 2 was 1984. And what a difference a year made in 1983 and 84, because Pit Stop 2 looks so much better than Pit Stop 1.
Right.
It's really staggering. Like, I would have put at least 3 or 4 years between those two.
Well, so it's a year and it's different developers.
Mm-hmm.
And that shows not only in the graphics, not to slight the graphics of who made Pit Stop 1, but the controls. And you might think,
wildly different.
The controls got better. No.
The controls got different.
Yeah.
So my theory is that if you sit down to play these two games like we did,
Mm-hmm.
the barrier to entry on Pit Stop 1 is very low.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that if you were going to like make this part of your video gaming practice, like if you're on a desert island, I think you want Pit Stop 2, because I think that with Pit Stop 2, there's this like centrifugal force kind of thing when you go around corners that's kind of there in Pit Stop 1, but not really. But I think like your speed management is more important in Pit Stop 2, and you have like turbo. Mm-hmm. So I think from like a depth of gameplay standpoint, maybe Pit Stop 2 is also a better game, but I think we had more fun with Pit Stop 1 because you can just like, you're just basically dodging cars.
Yeah, you can sit down and play Pit Stop 1 and have fun. I have no proof of this, so the following thing is completely my guess. Is Pit Stop 1 came out and was a hit.
Mm-hmm.
And these two other guys were working on Pit Stop 2. And Epyx went, we're going to brand this Pit Stop 2 to cash in. We need you to add a pit crew scene.
Right.
And that's what happened. Because they feel like different games connected only by the fact that you have to go into the pits.
Right. And that's the big twist. Like, that's what you're not going to get in Pole Position or the other kind of games of this era. Is like there is a slight element of strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And really, like, if you're going to do this thing, you know, I'm not gatekeeping 3-lap races. Like, if you have fun with 3 laps, but like to really get into the, okay, am I going to try to eke another lap out and be careful, or am I going to pit and just eat shit and like know that it's going to take me 7 minutes for this guy to change the fucking tire?
Mm-hmm.
You really need to do more than 3 laps, I think.
I would agree with that. I do think the pit adds different strategies for multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
In that, for each game. So, like, in 2, where everything's simultaneous, if you're behind, you might try to push it further. If you're far enough ahead, you might go, oh, I'll take the pit because I've got time and I don't want to risk a DNF.
Mm-hmm.
But in Pit Stop 1, where you have to take turns, if you're in the first position, you are making the choice between how much pressure do you put on the person behind you versus how much risk do you take losing a tire.
Right.
And that is a completely different way of thinking about the game. Because then you set the pace for the person behind you, and they have to either just know that they don't get to pit.
Right.
They're not going to win if they pit.
The other interesting thing along those lines is that in Pitstop 2, you can bump the other person into the pit. We did not do that because I'm so much better at this than you that I was so far ahead that we didn't have the opportunity to do that.
I'd like to give you shit about you giving me shit, but you crushed me.
in Pitstop 2, in 1, I think it was really close. But this is the second Epyx game that I have been victorious at when we've played multiplayer, because we played Winter Olympics.
Summer Games, wasn't it?
Summer Games, I'm sorry, yes. And or was it Summer Games?
I think it was Summer Games, and I thought I won.
No. I definitely won Summer Games, because I am the Olympian.
I can't wait to go back and watch.
I know one of us is going to look like an asshole. I mean,
right. I got a feeling it's me, but I'm still looking forward to going back and checking.
I thought I won. Well, anyway, which brings me to another interesting tidbit about Epyx. Like, I don't know about you, but when I think about Epyx, I think of these kind of sportsy games. But for one, Epyx was, as all good video game companies should be, founded out of a D&D session. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
That's fantastic.
I'm going to look that up after this. Not that I don't believe you, I just want to hear the story.
Yeah, they had a D&D session and then also had a computer, and they were like, we should make some software to manage our D&D shit, and then we should form a software company. And their first game was Starfleet Orion, which was the first space strategy game. And not what I think of when I think of Epyx at all. This is what I think of in like summer games, winter games, autumn games.
Autumn games. I think of Impossible Mission.
Yeah.
That was my intro to Epyx.
But yeah. We also played that, but obviously there's no head-to-head, so we can't. Yeah. I can't declare myself the true Epyx champion. Are you pulling up our Winter Olympics in another window and checking it?
Hands are here. Hand check. Doing it with my feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing, if we're talking about where this stuff started, I want to talk about the games, the systems this came out on. So the first one came out on the Atari home computers, Commodore 64. Doesn't look like Apple, which is always interesting to me when it comes out on the 64, because it's not a huge jump to take it over. But the Atom home computer. I don't think we've had a game where I've gotten to say the Atom home computer had a release of the game we're playing.
What
is
years.
that? What is that?
I'm not familiar with the Atom home computer.
Coleco of ColecoVision wanted to take their console and also help sell it in more of an educational computery setup. So you could buy this other computer that connected to it that had cassette drives and all this stuff. And the system tanked immediately. Aside from it just not being... Like, it had problems along the line of if you left your cassette tapes near it, not in it,
right.
That too, but near it, when you powered it on, there was a slight magnetic pulse that could corrupt the data or erase the tape entirely.
Great.
So, stuff like that.
Yeah, that seems like a slight design problem.
In addition to, you're supposed to plug it into another system you already bought. So you were buying a computer on top of your console.
Right.
And a bunch of peripherals. It got really cheap before the end, but there was almost no software supporting it. I wanted one so bad because I didn't know any of this. I saw it on the TV and I'm like, oh, I want it. I had a friend who had it, and the only game I remember playing on it was Dukes of Hazzard. And I was no good at it. I had not mastered first-person driving games. And that's what this was.
Wow. Dukes of Hazzard. Is it out for Commodore or anything? I like a good intellectual property shunt. They just get it and dump it on some poor platform. You mentioned first-person driving games. While you look that up, the manual for this, I went out and read the manuals because I was worried that we weren't going to have enough to talk about. And I was able to glean exactly 2 observations from the manuals. Observation 1 is, I don't remember what, observation 1 from the manual. I had a mini stroke while I was saying that.
I saw that.
Well, one of the observations was that in Pitstop 2, there's an introduction, but it's on the 4th page, which I thought was odd. That's a mid-troduction.
Right.
And, the other thing was that the Pitstop 1 manual says that this is the Pitstop 2 manual says this is a first-person game.
Yeah.
It is not. It is not a first-person game.
The manuals in this are meh. That's the best way I can say it. They are exactly what you need to play the game and nothing more, and you probably don't even need them to figure stuff out. You're dealing with a joystick with one button. Wiggle it around and see what happens. Boom, you're good to go. You learned more than reading the directions, and it took you half the time.
Well,
TV
I
is
will
twice
say,
as fast, and books are from the devil. That's what Master Shake told me.
I did learn, though, I guess I learned 3 things from the manual. In Pitstop 1, it's better to hit another car than it is to hit the red things on the side of the track from a tire wear standpoint.
That makes sense.
So, adopt that into your strategy.
Rubbin's racing.
Rubbin's racing. So those are the 3 manual tidbits.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
My manual, there was nothing, I like manuals that really add some flavor to the game. That's something we've always said is you should read the manual, you should read the manual, you should read the manual. Never have I said, I don't. I literally, if you never saw this manual, your life would be exactly the same as if you did. There's just nothing to it.
Yeah. I mean, It talks a big game.
Yeah.
It's it's going to be the most exciting racing experience you've ever experienced, blah, blah, blah. But no, this is it. That's fine.
It's fine. I don't want to get off this too much. I want to talk about 3 cars. But my research that you just sent me on.
Yes.
What systems did this come out for? Came out for the ColecoVision. Came out for Atom, the Coleco Atom. And it came out for one other system.
Okay.
And I'm talking about the Dukes of Hazzard game.
Okay. Dukes of Hazzard.
Dukes of Hazzard came out for Coleco, the ColecoVision, the Coleco Atom, and one other system. It's a system keeping in mind this is 1984 it came out. What is the other system?
Trash 80?
Not Trash 80.
I don't know.
So this, I don't want to say rednecky IP, but Southern American, the Spectrum,
the ZX Spectrum. No kidding.
I just sitting here going, were there a lot of British viewers of the Dukes of Hazzard that needed that IP? Because that's not a system we had much, if any, of in the States. I don't know anyone who had one.
Did you ever watch the Dukes of Hazzard?
Oh, yeah, I had a poster, man.
No shit, really? I
did.
Never watched it.
Oh, I watched it all the time.
And it's not because it was beneath me on some intellectual level. It just was never on, so I just never watched it.
It was probably slightly before your time.
Yeah, that's right. You're 70 and I'm
75.
About half that, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, so you were in your prime when that came out. That's interesting.
Yeah. No, I had a poster, man. That's Dukes of Hazzard, which is not this game.
Right.
The 3-car thing I want to talk about, because we'll see this again in Pitstop 2. You're going, look at how much room you have to get around the cars. You had 2 cars come at you, and you could still squeak your way through them and pass them. That's not the case in Pitstop 2, and we will show Pitstop 2 before this is over.
Yeah, Pitstop 2, the car is super wide.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go for it.
I was going to say the other weird thing about Pitstop 2 is that there are lane markers, which is not super necessary, I don't know. I mean, visually, I guess it adds some interest, but I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of strange. But yeah, the car is wide, and you can only fit two
Hmm.
cars, I think, on the track.
Yeah, either the cars need to be 25% smaller or the road needs to be 25% bigger. Pick one, I don't care.
Hmm.
But you've given me no room to maneuver, so every time a car comes up, I'm going to hit something.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think the gameplay in Pit Stop One is largely about dodging these incoming cars that kind of meander
Hmm.
towards you. Uh, Whereas Pit Stop 2, I think that's kind of less the case. You're not so much dodging, you're trying to control yourself and get around a single car. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And the car will move to block you in pit stop too, which is the other part of the problem. Now, I
Hmm.
think this is the one where I go in the pit. So once we show the pit here, because I do want to,
Then we can move on.
I'll pull up pit stop too.
Yeah, because we would be doing you a great disservice to not discuss the pit stop
Oh,
element of this game
right.
because it's like where all of the strategy comes in,
Yep.
and what makes pit stop. Otherwise, it's just you may as well play pole position.
Or turbo for those who remember it. Actually, if you want to play a game like Pit Stop 1 that doesn't have the pit, Enduro for the 2600.
Hmm.
I would recommend that all day, every day. That
Yeah,
is just a fantastic game. Uh, let's talk about sound a little bit. There's not much to it.
I think the sound is for what it is pretty good. Like
Yeah.
it sounds kind of like. I mean, it doesn't sound like a race car, but
No.
it's evocative and of a
Yeah.
race car. Like you know what it's supposed to sound like.
Yeah, it sounds like a
It's
Commodore race car.
it's like a buzzy little thing. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's not annoying, but I don't need it right now.
What impressed me about Pit Stop 2 was that there you can hear both cars.
Hmm.
Like the pitch changes as you accelerate, and you get both of them, and they kind of like harmonize. I think it's quite interesting
Yeah,
on Pit Stop 2. That I was impressed by that.
but you don't hear a lot of like tires squealing or anything else like that. I feel like there's some things
No.
that could maybe be added in that would have helped the experience a little bit. Here I go.
So, yeah, the thing to note here is that you have two green tires and two purple tires, and the tires wear from like dark purple, or wait, is it just purple to green to red?
Hmm.
I don't know why they start purple, but they do. And here you go. So you click on which pit person you want to maneuver,
Yep.
and then you kind of shove them around
Yep.
and try to get them to put the fucking wheel on the car. So
It's
you're
a
like,
little sloppy using
it's so sloppy.
a 4-post analog stick. Like it's
Yeah.
not, you know, it's well, they're not analog sticks for starters. They're digital,
Yeah,
and
right.
it's only 4 position, not 8. So you're like trying to. You have less play between all the things. Just it's a little clumsy. And
Yeah.
then here I'm trying to get one guy run over, but it won't let me. It is smart
Yeah.
enough to not let you run over your guys.
Yeah, you have to have them separate. So you can see that takes a long ass time, and it's not it's not rewarding in and of itself, I think, as a gameplay mechanic. Like you never feel like you're killing it with this pit stop. Uh it never feels like it's going well. But in the larger context of the game, I think it's a great game element, as I said earlier, especially on a longer race where like at least one is mandatory,
Mm-hmm.
because then the seconds really do kind of start to
Right.
matter there because we were usually within a second or two of each other,
Right.
if not tied, when we played this multiplayer.
And I can see that being an interesting sort of leveling of the field for two players. Like someone might be better in the pit and someone might be better on the track. And if you
Mhm.
have to do 6 laps, that pit guy might be the one who wins it because of the pit.
Right. And like there is a little bit of strategy in the pit because you can make your fuel person fill up your car
Mm-hmm.
while you're changing the tire, but if you overfill the fuel, it explodes for some reason. I'm not sure exactly why that is, but it does.
Oh yeah, in this one it explodes.
In two, in the second one it
laps back. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all. Those are all interesting mechanics that add an element of strategy. Like you know the state of your fuel in your tires all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So you just kind of have to balance that and decide: am I going to push it around another lap? What am I going to do?
Right.
So very good.
Here comes Pitstop 2.
Yes, the developers are named. I couldn't find out who developed Pitstop 1. Could you?
I could. Pitstop 1 was developed by Jamie Fenton and Randy Glover.
There you
go. This is obviously Stefan Landrum and Dennis Caswell. I had them listed backwards on my notes here, so it's like, what? Pitstop 2, Atari C64 and IBM, did have an Apple II and TRS-80 release, so...
Yeah, and already, like, it looks better.
Right?
You're in for some eye candy when the title's coming out at you. It's very exciting.
I feel like something must have happened around 1983 at Epyx where graphics started getting prioritized. Mm-hmm. Because, man, after that, they killed it in graphics just every time.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I didn't find the graphics in Pitstop 1 to be objectionable, but I found Pitstop 2 to be quite impressive.
Yeah, you'll see here in a second that it is night and day.
One thing that I didn't like about either of them, and again, I think this might end up being less of a case in 2, but like knowing the tracks doesn't really matter. Like they purport to be real race tracks, but they don't feel different because the cornering is all pretty much the same. Like there's no real difference in the experience of cornering.
Right. This corner is not different from that corner is what you're saying. Like there's not a gradual corner versus a steep corner.
But again, I suspect if you start incorporating some speed control in Pitstop 2, maybe you could get there where it matters. This is me trying to enter my name, by the way.
I think it would still matter because you'll probably want to slow down before you go into the corner. So you want to keep an eye on the map on where you're at to dial back. And this is the one thing I think for me would make that interesting because they definitely tried to make it interesting, but they didn't quite succeed. If pushing up locked in my speed at a speed. Mm-hmm. Like if I pushed up and got it to 175 and then it stayed at 175 instead of starting to fall back. Because otherwise when I'm going around the corner, I got to keep nudging and bumping and I can't hit a speed and hold it there.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of the stick where like if I was in a car, I could put my foot on the pedal exactly where I wanted it to hold that speed.
Yeah. There's a lot more elements of driving here too because there's turbo boost.
Yeah.
And there's the very narrow road and then there's the corners that kind of throw you all over the place.
And I'm sure someone's going to be like, I've measured it. You can fit 3 cars in there. You can, but not the same, especially with how just janky your steering is.
Yeah. Yeah. Passing on a corner is really difficult. If you're going around a corner and you let off, you kind of fly to the other side. Yeah. And that's challenging. And that's why I keep saying like probably speed control is the way to be successful with that gameplay element. Mm-hmm. But it's, we didn't really play that way.
No. But the cars
you can see how we played.
Infinitely better.
Oh, it looks so good with the scrolling in the background and the perspective of the road moving around. It's great.
Yeah, it's amazing. Which game would you rather play?
Again, like I would say if we're going to sit down, I'm going to play Pitstop 1. But if we were like going to play one of these Pitstop games once a week for the rest of our lives, I would choose 2 because I feel like 2 there's more opportunity to get better at it and like I think it would be more rewarding on a longer timeline. Okay. What would you choose?
I would probably pick 1 because I feel like 2 would give me the opportunity to get frustrated more on a longer timeline.
True. Yeah, 2 is definitely more frustrating.
because I feel like I'm doing it right, and I know I'm not, and I know it's on me to some extent, but the game needed to be just a smidge more forgiving.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of makes you feel out of control, and it often feels like you are not permitted to react the way you want to oncoming cars. Uh, Whereas like the first one, they just get in front of you, and then you're just kind of stuck sometimes. But here they seem almost malicious.
Yeah, sometimes they just steer right. Like that guy just steered into him. Why? Why are you turning right into the turn? Green car on the bottom.
Yeah, but you can see like it's also really cool because the wear of your tires is now in the reflection,
Yeah.
which I think is really nice. Like it makes it look more substantial and real, but it still conveys the information that you need.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm still I think these are sprites. As like I'm trying to decide if these are sprites or graphics, but I think the cars are sprites.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like three of them.
I think the map positioning and showing you where you are on the map is interesting. I think it's cool that you can see the other person when you're driving. Even if they're in the pit, you'll go flying by and you'll see the car parked there.
Yeah, that's really cool. Or if they explode,
Mm-hmm.
if they crash.
Have their tires pop off. I do like that this is a racing game where when you hit another car, you don't explode. But there is a real consequence towards you maybe not finishing. You can't just demolition derby your way down the track.
It has a really good balance to it between, punishing you and forgiving you for your traffic transgressions.
And this is, too, I feel like this gives you more information than the first one gives you. It does it in a cleaner way. I really like the presentation on this. I like the split screen. I can't think of many games from this era that had split screen. Some, but not many.
Yeah. Yeah, from a multiplayer standpoint, I actually didn't mind Pit Stop 1 just taking turns because it's fun to watch the other person and root for their failure. And you can't really do that in Pit Stop 2 because you're so busy trying not to explode. We both DNF'd on that first one because we didn't manage our tires very well. But I mean, they're very different two-player experiences.
Yeah.
If I were a kid, definitely 2. This is Dirk Diggler
versus the boss.
The boss. We went in a wildly different direction with our names on the second one. Yeah, there I go.
And you just got off the line faster.
Yep.
I think my problem was I didn't realize when we were racing still that like the button is turbo but not necessarily accelerate, and that if you do both, then you go faster. But it wouldn't have mattered. I still can't steer that thing to save my life. So
it's really hard to drive. Like there's just no escaping it. And I tried slowing down for some of these corners, and it does help sometimes until it doesn't. Like passing someone on a corner is just really hard in this game. Like no matter how fast you're going. But yeah, you just kind of shoot across like a
like, oh, I'm starting to gain traction, and then that purple car just decides it's going to steer in front of you no matter where you are.
Yep. Purple car's a bastard. Yeah.
So, let me find the pit for this. There. Oh,
yeah, let's take a look at the pit.
That was easy. All right.
Timely.
Now, this only has 2 guys instead of 3. And no flag guys, so instead of 4.
Same kind of deal. It's harder to tell that you've grabbed the tires, and it's harder to get them on and off. And you can see my pit stop was a disaster on Pit Stop 2. And I think I was screaming at the guy, and it's way harder to successfully execute a pit stop in Pit Stop 2.
Yeah, this is why I'm not even going for the tire on the other side of the car. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, you have to like walk around the whole car, and then you have to like come in straight at the tire to grab it, and it's difficult.
But I like the steering wheel cursor. I think that's a nice touch.
I like their sweet jumpsuits.
Yeah,
Like
they
that's
got,
cool.
it looks good.
Hmm.
Everything about Pitstop 2 looks good.
Definitely.
I just feel like it doesn't play as well as 1. Could play better,
Yeah,
which is a
I agree.
small thing, but still.
Yeah.
Okay. Pinnacle and Pit.
I mean, the I think the pinnacle was playing this with you, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
multiplayer. That was a great time. I think I actually preferred when we weren't playing at the same time because I really enjoyed watching you, even though you beat me uh, more consistently in Pit Stop One. It was still fun to like watch what you
Yeah.
were doing and then have you watching what I was doing. So I think that was the pinnacle. I think the pit was probably uh, I don't know. I mean, there really isn't that big of a pit. It was, I mean, it was probably losing. There was one race where we were really close, and I thought I was going to win, but then you had like a great lap, and that wasn't cool because I really like to win at things.
I agree with you in that the pit was really hard to find. There were lots of things I could pick as pinnacles, but there really only was one thing I can gripe about this game, and that's the steering in Pit Stop 2.
Yeah,
That's my only. It's just like, man, it's just a little too sloppy, a little tighter, a little less all over the place.
hmm,
Where even someone like me who's starting can like at least feel like they got a chance. Okay, maybe I come in last place, but I can still finish a 3 lap race without all my tires getting ripped off.
right.
Like it's
Yeah,
just
DNF is
slightly too
real.
hard. Like
Yeah.
if I couldn't finish a 5 lap race or a 6 lap race, sure, fine.
Hmm.
That's fair because I've upped some of the difficulty. It's someone just starting shouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I could not grab that front tire.
I know, and you can't go. Oh, you can go that way.
Yeah, you go that way. Yeah, I think that's. I think we
Yeah,
did it justice. Like
yeah,
play with your friends if you're looking for something to do.
right.
It's a good time.
So yeah, my only request is someone goes and finishes Vice's networking. That would be nice,
Yeah,
but whatever,
whatever.
whatever. All right, our next long game by request,
By persistent request.
persistent request from many
This
many people.
I was thinking like pit stop is really just kind of has been like an island in a storm, a port in a storm for us because we went from Syndicate, which we both hated,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're doing Leisure Suit Larry, Land of the Lounge Lizards, which we're both slightly uncomfortable with
Mm-hmm.
for a few reasons. And then you just have like pit stop in the middle of it.
Like,
It's
oh, that was
fine.
fun. That's a nice little thing we did there.
Yeah, like it's
Uh, yeah.
didn't take a lot of time. Wasn't like you know challenging
No.
really socially in any way.
No.
I mean, yeah, yeah.
All right.
But stay tuned for Leisure Suit Larry, I guess.
Yep.
You ask for it, we're doing
We're
it.
doing it. This week will be Knox on Thursday.
Yes, on Thursday.
A little more Knox Archaist. Our next short game. I'm gonna show 3 covers here.
Whoa.
3 covers for this game.
All right.
Each of them increasingly interesting as I go backwards in time.
Okay.
First off, and I'm also going to address this right off the bat. A lot of people are going to say, "Oh, you should do Jumpman in the next video, in our next short game." You're like, you should do Jumpman. And yes, Jumpman's on our list. And Jumpman's a game I like. I think this game has more character. I have no idea how Matt's going to feel about it.
Great.
The first cover is this. It's Ultimate Wizard or Wizard, depending on when you bought it.
Wizard.
So,
God, we look more like the guy on Ultimate Wizard now.
I know, right?
That's upsetting, but that's cool. Like it's cool. It's a
Yep.
okay.
Go a little bit older. and I found this cover. Also cool. Also
okay.
cool. Yeah. You ready?
Badass.
You ready for the
I'm
one?
ready. I'm ready. Oh, it like has to draw on my screen because my lag is terrible. That is awesome. Wow.
By the way, gameplay is nothing like any of these box covers.
Great.
Just it's a platformer. You run around and you collect little glowy things, Bruce Lee style, but you're a wizard who can shoot like a spell with the space bar. And it's sort of like a load runnery kind of platform game.
Wow. I think what we should do is cash out all our YouTube money that we've made.
Okay.
And I think you should get that tattooed on your back.
You think I should get that tattooed on my back?
The wizard cover with the rainbow colored label.
I don't want to steal your thunder, Matt. You take this one. You get this tattoo. I think you should. It's definitely something you should go for.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a downside to it.
No, there's no
it's
no way
so
to lose.
Cool.
It's subtle.
Right. Right. Yeah. That demon is something.
Mm-hmm. Then there's a wizard blasting at like I don't know if the sorceress is being attacked by the demon or she's controlling the demon. She might be protecting the demon. Don't shoot my demon. I don't know what's going on.
My read on this is that she has summoned the demon to defend her from
the wizard.
The wizard.
And the wizard's guarding the dragon.
By a dragon.
That's
so they've like both summoned two different things.
I think that's interesting in this because lots of times you see the wizards have their armies they've summoned in front of them. Mm-hmm. But this is like, don't shoot the guy. He's my friend.
Right. Maybe it's like Mech Warrior where they're just like controlling it from the front like a backpack.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know. Poor design choice, but okay.
Use your imagination, folks.
It's fantasy, man. Open your mind.
Areola soft. Is that what that says?
I think so.
All right.
Go back far enough in time, you get some interesting choices.
Yeah.
So this will be our next short game for those of you who want to play along with us at home.
Okay.
I think this game just has slightly more character than Jumpman and Jumpman Jr., so we'll give it a shot. All right.
Yeah, we're gonna play it. We're gonna talk about it. You're gonna listen. Maybe.
Maybe. All right. On that note, we'll talk to everybody later. Bye.
Goodbye. Thanks.
Big thank you to all of you watching, sharing, liking, subscribing, suggesting games, commenting on our videos, or supporting us on Patreon. We appreciate all of your support and look forward to sharing many more videos with you. Thank you again.